Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at the SH Figuarts Alphamon from Digimon. Now you guys know from my other videos on the Digimon figures, some of them aren't the best. They look pretty cool, but then when you actually get them in your hand, they're not made very well and they're kind of hard to stand, and they just have a lot of problems. I have to say I'm pleasantly surprised with this guy. We do have a few issues. That's the nature of this whole situation with these crazy designs, but he is really well done compared to the other ones. He's a really cool figure, and he just looks awesome, right? Like, I've never even seen Alphamon before because I stopped watching Digimon ages ago, but it's a really cool design. Almost looks like a Gundam mixed with a Digimon, so that's really cool. So let's get him off the stand and take a closer look. Alright, this guy stands roughly 18 centimeters to the top of his head, which makes him just about 7 inches, a little over 7 inches. He's really big, and he's actually bulky for once. He's not super skinny like some of the other Digimon figures. That just popped off. But it's a really cool figure, and it's got this really nice appeal because we have this gloss black with this really nice metallic gold throughout, a little bit of metallic red in there, and then those nice white highlights really make the figure pop. The cape has a really dark glossy blue finish on the inside, and then we have a glossy white finish on the outside. I don't know how I feel about the gloss. It's alright. It's clean enough. I mean, the paints are nice and smooth, but the gloss does look a little weird for the cape. But it's alright, it looks pretty good. Before we get into the figure anymore though, let's look at the accessories. First of all, we get a fist hand for either side. That's how he comes in the package. I've already put on one of the gripping hands. We get one of those for either side so that he can hold his staff. Then we have, let's get him out of the way, then we have a style pose hand, which is really nice. Let me zoom in so you can see that. Has that nice red thing in the middle. And then we have two of these style pose hands. One for either side. Now the problem with these guys, they don't have the paint job on them on the inside, so that's a bummer. It really would look better if those were there. We get the staff, which you already saw, very nicely done, and a nice perk for this thing is that to get it in his hand, you can just take it apart, and it actually has a steel rod in there to make sure you don't break anything, so that's really cool. Nice finish on this. And we do get a display stand, really not much to look at, but we get that. So, we have those accessories. I guess technically, if you wanted to, you could count these guys as accessories and the cape since you have to put them on, but they're part of his body, so I'm not going to count that. As far as articulation goes, the head can move all over the place. You can snap it around side to side, forward and back. Really no problem moving it at all. It'll look all the way down, all the way up. It is limited, of course, by how bulky the body is in relation to the head, but you do get to move it around however you wish. No problems at all. These shoulder pads are on their own little piece of plastic connected to the shoulder, so they will move around with the shoulder as you want them to. They have their own hinge. This shoulder pad is connected to the shoulder but has its own hinge. The shoulder, of course, has its own hinge. And all of that, not counting this piece, is connected with a ball peg to the torso. So you shouldn't have really any trouble at all posing this guy. His joints are a little bit stiff, but I imagine that'll loosen up as you go. They're not stiff in that they're made too stiff, just stiff from not having been moved before. We do have a bicep swivel in there, standard bicep swivel, double jointed elbow. It's not the best looking elbow in the world, but it will get the job done, so that's okay by me. And then the wrists have just a single ball peg, no hinge or anything in there, but they get pretty good range, so that is alright by me. The upper torso has it feels to me like a single ball peg. It's a little hard to tell. And then, of course, this guy's on a ball peg to move around. But you can rotate the torso around and lean it some. Then the lower torso has a hinge and a ball peg. So you can pull it forward. Maybe it's 2 hinges, I'm not sure. But either way, you can move it around. And I don't know how practical that is because he's really back heavy. But you can move him around a little bit. I would mostly suggest you just go for the twisties instead of the bendies. Because the bendies are not going to be able to support themselves. For the hips, we have a swivel that brings a leg forward and back, which gives you really good range of motion. Let me zoom out a little bit so you can see that. And then we have a hinge that brings it out side to side, and of course you can rotate around at the thigh. So you get pretty good range considering how bulky he is, and he's definitely not as skinny in the joints as the other guys, so you don't really feel like he's going to break, so that's a really nice thing. You have a double jointed knee, but you can only really use one at a time. If you'll look, if I use the top joint, I can't really bring the bottom one around, and if I use the bottom one, the top joint doesn't really gain anything from it. So you're better off pretty much just using the top joint and keeping the sculpt a little bit closer together. Not the best knee design at all. For the ankles, we just have a double ball peg as far as I can tell. They move around a little bit, and you can kind of shimmy them from side to side, forward and back, but you get a little bit of play forward and back, or up and down, and a little bit of an ankle rocker, so it'll do. It's not the best, but it'll do. Now for the backpack. For these guys, we have a hinge that lets them go up and down, and one that lets them go side to side. That's it. And then for the cape, it's kind of like the Injustice figures, if you ever saw those. There's a hinge that lets each individual piece fold up, and then a swivel for these two side pieces to bring them out. Now that's a really terrible design because of those giant gaps, and it's just not good. The best outcome is that you just bring them out a little bit to flare the cape, but really you're going to want to probably just keep them in because it's not a great design at all. And he is back heavy, and you saw that his torso joints are a little bit flimsy. So it's going to take a little bit of work to pose this guy, but you do get the display stand, and the cool thing about that is it pegs into his crotch. And the reason that's cool is because you don't have to worry about him falling over at all. You can pretty much pose him. I can't do this without seeing it. Or can I? No, I can't. Anyway, there's a peg hole in his crotch. Maybe you can see that. Anyway, you don't have to worry about him falling over, so that's a good thing. You can pretty much pose him however you want, and you'll be just fine. So, long story short, even though it's already kind of long, it's a really cool looking figure. I like it a lot. Not without some problems, but I think you're going to be pretty pleased with it. Of those problems, basically being back heavy and having the lousy cape, he's definitely the best of the Digimon figures, by far. Really cool looking figure. I know he's all black, so it's probably hard for you to see some of these details. I have it super bright, and if I turn it any brighter, you won't be able to see anything but the black, so hopefully that worked out. But still, he's a really nice looking figure, and I do recommend it. Make sure you check out my import figure playlist. I have lots of other figures like this in there, so if you're new to the channel, that'll be helpful for you. And make sure you subscribe to the channel because I upload a new video every day. We do figure reviews, custom figures, gaming, TV, movies, all kinds of stuff, so you're probably going to find something that you will like. Thanks for watching, guys. I will see you in the next video, and in the meantime, keep collecting.